I want you to understand something, and I'm going to say this very clearly. I was not there. Only thing I was hearsay, not hearsay, but to say, like, okay, my religion of Chthonian Asumbrella, that's the underworld. He was like on the Mummy, the Black Book. So this was them, my little cousins, the one that were in the house with me. That when I got served the search warrant.
Right.
This was their ritual of sacrifice.
In 2013, Nikko Jenkins horrified Omaha, Nebraska, going on a killing spree, claiming the lives of 4 individuals. What amplifies the horror of these acts is that the killer said they were driven by religion. According to Nikko, the influence of an ancient Egyptian serpent god named Apophis played a role in orchestrating these gruesome crimes, introducing a chilling dimension of crime intertwined with religious belief. This is the gruesome case of Nikko Jenkins. Nikko Jenkins, a native of Omaha, Nebraska, was born into a challenging environment with his mother Lori and father David. As evident from the thumbnail of this video, his upbringing was far from easy. The Jenkins family has a notorious history with the law stretching back as far as police in Omaha could remember. In what seems to be cases of generational trauma, grappling with issues like drugs, alcohol, and child neglect has plagued the family for decades. Child welfare has had to remove nearly a dozen children from various family members' homes. Astonishingly, over 100 cases were reported during Nikko's time as a free man. However, these grim details seem to be obscured, dismissed, or overlooked amid a backdrop of mistrials, acquittals, or dropped charges while being convicted of over 600 crimes since 1980. Nikko's trouble with the justice system started at the early, tender age of 7 when he brought a handgun to school. By the time he reached 11, grappling with a horrific upbringing, he found himself taken from the foster home he had been placed in. He was removed from the home due to a recurring pattern of assaults on fellow residents of the home. At the age of 13, he persisted in his pattern of aggression, escalating to assaults involving deadly weapons. By 2003, at the age of 17, he found himself behind bars after being convicted of 2 armed carjackings. While serving time for these offenses, Nikko faced another conviction in 2009, resulting in a 5-year prison sentence for assaulting a prison guard. In 2011, he received a 4-year sentence, but state sentencing guidelines led to a reduction to 1 to 2 years. The judge decided that these terms would run concurrently with his existing prison time, rather than being added on at the end, resulting in Nikko's release from prison in 2013. Nikko serves as a somber illustration of a flawed justice system. From the tender age of 7 until his release from prison in his mid-20s, there were no indications that he was ready to assimilate into society. However, he slipped through the cracks, and inexplicably, matters took a turn for the worse. In July 2013, Nikko was set free at the age of 26, having spent over a decade behind bars.
We got 2 parties inside the vehicle, appear to be shot in the head. Can you send a squad to our location?
The victims, Jorge Ruiz and Juan Pena, were both discovered shot to death with their pockets turned inside out. Nikko had no apparent motive to kill them. He didn't even know them. Just 8 days later, Curtis Bradford's lifeless body was uncovered, bearing 2 gunshot wounds in the back. It later emerged that Curtis and Nikko had posed together for a Facebook photo the day before. Unlike the other victims, Bradford was the sole individual known to Nikko, as they spent time together in prison. Andrea Kruger became Nikko's 4th and final victim. Her body found around 2 a.m. on August 21st by a deputy responding to reported gunshots. She lay in the road with multiple gunshot wounds, having been returning home from a bartending shift. Her abandoned vehicle was located 12 miles away from the crime scene later that evening. Subsequent to the incident, law enforcement disclosed that the vehicle had been deserted a mere 2 hours after it was stolen, with an intentional fire set inside the vehicle.
Douglas County Chief Deputy Tom Wheeler says the public played a crucial role after Andrea Kruger's death. Tips led investigators from the murder scene near 168th and Fort to her SUV.
It became evident at this point that the perpetrator responsible for claiming the lives of these victims was a serial killer. Nikko was apprehended on August 30th following a statement from a woman and his ex-girlfriend who reported witnessing one of Nikko's cousins handing him a firearm. Moreover, he allegedly threatened to harm her family, a threat that he was prevented from carrying out due to his subsequent arrest.
Sources say evidence recovered may be connected to several unsolved homicides. This apartment near 108th and Maple is where police arrested 26-year-old Nikko Jenkins Thursday for an outstanding felony warrant for terroristic threats. Sources say Jenkins' ex-girlfriend called police saying he threatened to kill her and her family. And the woman who reports Jenkins told her he was going to send demonic forces to her mother's house.
During Nikko's custody, additional evidence continued to accumulate as the police obtained surveillance footage of a woman acquainted with him purchasing ammunition. This ammunition matched the type used in the committed murders.
Arrested today on 4 counts of first-degree murder, the Kruger homicide and the murder 2 days earlier of 22-year-old Curtis Bradford. A week earlier, 2 more killings linked to Jenkins. Jorge Cajilla Ruiz and Juan Uribe Peña shot to death in a pickup near Spring Lake Park. Investigators today say Nikko Jenkins was an indiscriminate killer.
On September 23, 2013, Nikko confessed to the 4 murders.
There you go. I'm
I like to be alone. I need to speak to someone.
Okay.
Because that's what makes my mind frame goes back. I'm schizophrenic, bipolar, so I don't take medication. So right now, that's why I'm trying to stay. That's why I told them they need to hurry up when I'm in this mind frame.
Okay.
So that when I speak to you, it's clear. And but another thing, what I'm about to do, the sheriff office and you guys need to be honest with me.
Okay.
Because if we're going to make this work and get this closure for this family, you're going to have to tell me what you have and what you don't have. That way I know if I have to go get it for you.
After.
You alright?
You alright, man? You alright, man?
That's what I don't understand. Man, is that all I was in the Nebraska operations, man. All I wanted was help from people, man. I will testify to that. This is the first time that I've ever aided and assisted law enforcement in my life. So any jury, any judge, any prosecutor will be, once I sit on that stand and testify to this, it's golden. Any jury is not going to look at me and say, oh, he's told before and he's done. With my history and my reputation, and this first time testimony of ever aided and assisted law enforcement, and everything that I'm saying is accurate.
You gotta come to terms.
I understand.
Because here, listen to me. But listen, no, I've listened to you for a long time. It's time for you to listen to me. Because like what you said, if you don't tell me what the heck happened out there, people are going to think the absolute worst. People are going to think the absolute worst. If this is a robbery went bad, if there's someone did something really stupid, now's the time. Because otherwise, you're right. They're going to look at Nikko Jenkins as a flat, bloody killer. That's what's going to happen. You not realize I got Nikko Jenkins? You not realize that? I got Nikko Jenkins. I got you. I got your DNA at the murder scene. I got your DNA in the car. I got the weapon. I got Nikko Jenkins. I don't need to make... I don't care about anything. I just want other people that are involved in it. What the hell happened out there? And why? All right, I know who. I know what. I know when. I know where. And then when I talked to you earlier, you were saying stuff about a carjack.
That woman's husband and children. That woman's husband is grieving right now. This is not just some psycho killer that just wanted to go trophy. I'm documented psychiatrically disordered. I'm documented chemically imbalanced. This is a fact. So my point is,
We're well aware of that.
my point is this though. This family didn't deserve this.
Right.
This could have been prevented had it not been for the Nebraska Department of Corrections doing what they knew what they supposed to have did. And they never gave me an opportunity.
Nikko faced charges on all 4 counts of murder, 4 counts of being a felon in possession, and 4 counts of firearm use. In addition to these charges, he was already dealing with terroristic threatening charges for threatening a woman's family. The individual who supplied Nikko with the gun was also taken into custody. In November of that year, after spending approximately 2 months in jail, Nikko chose to pen a letter to the Omaha World-Herald. In the letter, he implored the paper to aid both him and the families of his victims. Nikko expressed his willingness to plead guilty to all charges and emphasized his desire for psychiatric treatment, citing the health department's awareness of Apophis and the demonic influences he claimed were at play. By February 2014, Nikko initiated a lawsuit seeking monetary damages of over $24 million from the state of Nebraska. His claim was rooted in the allegation that the state had wrongfully released him from prison without providing the mental health treatment he deemed necessary. Furthermore, he assigned blame to correction officials for the 4 murders he committed.
His psych evaluation shows he needed mental help as early as the 2nd grade. That's when he says a voice told him to bring his mom's gun to school. A voice Nikko now says is an Egyptian demon forcing him to kill.
He's not pretending to be crazy. He's real life crazy. That Apophis gives him orders.
Nikko told her Apophis saved him from attempting suicide in solitary confinement a few years ago.
It was this voice that came and was just like, if you do what I tell you to do, if you follow my demands, then I'll make sure you're safe and make sure you're okay.
By this juncture, there were individuals who held belief that Nikko had genuinely experienced injustice within the legal system. Having been in and out of custody since the age of 7, evidently grappling with mental health issues, he was released into the world without adequate support. A comprehensive failure on the part of both the state and the justice system.
An Egyptian god speaks to Nikko Jenkins, but a psychiatrist in court today says he thinks Jenkins is faking it, while another doctor from Douglas County Corrections testified of all the people he's evaluated, Jenkins is by far the most dangerous.
Following the judge's decision to mandate a psychiatric assessment of Nikko, the psychiatrist concluded that Nikko had antisocial personality disorder. However, it was noted that he deliberately faked psychotic symptoms, fabricating claims of hearing voices in an attempt to feign insanity. The assessment characterized him as a sociopath, asserting that he would not derive any benefit from treatment.
Doctor says he's schizophrenic, while Lincoln Regional Center doctors say he's got a personality disorder, but he isn't clinically insane. Jenkins says he heard the voice of an Egyptian god while carrying out the murders. The 31-page report entered into district court details dozens of evaluations of Jenkins at the Lincoln Correctional Center and his history from a child through adulthood. Clinical psychologist Kurt Newring with Forensic Behavioral Health reviewed the report and says there's a pattern of antisocial behavior.
That's not part of the is he competent or is he not, but it resonates pretty clearly in the evaluation that this is a man that has, over his lifetime, manipulated others, deceived others, abused others, and has taken satisfaction in doing that.
Following the declaration of his competence to stand trial, the legal proceedings began. At his behest, Nikko was granted permission to serve as his own legal representative. Throughout the trial, he consistently asserted that his actions were carried out on behalf of Apophis. Nikko's courtroom demeanor was marked by a dramatic display involving tongues, howling, and laughter as prosecutors recounted the details of his victims' deaths. On April 16, 2014, a judge found Nikko guilty of all 4 murders. While awaiting sentencing in prison, Nikko opted to undergo certain body modifications.
State senators want to know why officials can't put a stop to it. One inmate involved in nearly a dozen incidents behind bars. Good evening, I'm Jennifer Griswold.
And I'm Craig DeGrelli. Convicted killer Nikko Jenkins injured himself yet again. Now prominent state senators are asking, how does this keep happening?
In 2015, Nikko engaged in extreme self-alterations while in prison. He carved 666 onto his forehead, albeit in reverse as he did it while looking in a mirror. Additionally, he chose to inscribe Satan on his face and altered his tongue to resemble that of a snake. Nikko frequently engaged in self-inflicted cuts, smearing blood across his cell. Authorities noted that this behavior seemed to derive pleasure from eliciting reactions from guards and fellow inmates. However, when reports of these instances ceased due to Nikko's persistent self-harm, he would then seek attention by crying out for help. His unsettling actions extended to drinking his own urine and inserting various bodily substances into his nose. Nikko escalated further, resorting to drastic measures such as cutting his genitals with a razor blade, aiming to create a serpent-like appearance. The extent of the damage resulted in over a dozen stitches.
Jenkins has since mutilated his face, tongue, and attempted to hang himself at least twice.
According to prosecutors, Nikko allegedly admitted to engaging in self-mutilation as a strategy to employ the insanity defense and undermine the credibility of the judicial system.
Life or death will be up to the 3-judge panel in the case against convicted spree killer Nikko Jenkins. This morning, attorneys argue if Jenkins' IQ was high enough for him to even have a death penalty hearing. A test when he was first incarcerated in 2003 suggests his IQ was 69, which is under the threshold. Jenkins himself objected to his own attorney's questioning and wanted to get right to the 3-judge panel. Judge Peter Battalion orders that the hearing move forward and Jenkins is competent.
In May 2017, 3 years after his guilty verdict, attributed to the prolonged process of multiple psychiatric evaluations, Nikko received a death sentence. Additionally, he was handed a 450-year prison sentence on weapons charges related to the committed murders.
The defendant's commission of these 4 murders over a 10-day period is one of the worst killing sprees in the history of this state. Each one of these murders was a deliberate and planned act. The victims were pre-selected and the murders were purposeful. Therefore, this panel finds that the death penalty is appropriate, should be, and is hereby given for each of the 4 murders by the defendant. It is therefore the sentence of this court as follows. At case CR 13-2768, count 1, murder in the first degree, a class 1 felony, death. Count 2, use of a deadly weapon, firearm to commit a felony, a class 1C felony, 45 to 50 years to run consecutive to all murder convictions at counts 1, 4, 7, and 10. Count 3, possession of a deadly weapon by a prohibited person, class 1D felony, 45 to 50 years to run consecutive to all murder convictions at counts 1, 4, 7, and 10.
In 2018, Nikko made attempts on his own life in prison, initially by cutting himself and subsequently pulling tiles off the wall and fashioning them into sharp objects, reportedly causing harm to his eyes and neck. As perplexing as Nikko Jenkins' demeanor appeared to be, prosecutors and the judicial system assert a different perspective. They contend that he was cognizant of his actions, and despite grappling with certain conditions, he remained legally competent. Nevertheless, conflicting reports emerged, with some professionals suggesting he had schizophrenia.
Among the documents WOWT6 News obtained is a psychiatric diagnosis reevaluation of Jenkins. It explains a number of things about Jenkins' current thinking. That Jenkins no longer admits to killing 4 people in a 10-day span back in 2013. That he believes he'll eventually be let out of prison and move to Cuba, where he'll make nuclear weapons at the direction of evil demons that continue to speak to him. And that he needs to be killed so he can be resurrected. All of those things and many more outlined led to this conclusion from Dr. Bruce Gutnick. Quote, Mr. Jenkins is not now competent to stand trial.
However, when prescribed medication, he consistently refused to take it. Despite his mental state, it's evident that Nikko never had a fair chance. His troubled upbringing, marked by association with deeply problematic individuals, coupled with a justice system that failed to provide adequate support, set the stage for his struggles. In 2018, he finally began taking the prescribed medication, leading to a brief improvement in his mental state. Unfortunately, by 2019, he had resumed self-mutilation. Despite strong indications of a mental handicap, the court ruled once again in 2019 that Nikko is fully competent to be held responsible for his actions. According to legal standards, those presumed mentally ill are exempt from the death penalty. As of 2023, the courts are delving deeper into Nikko's mental state, refraining from assigning an execution date. They emphasize the need to ensure his mental stability to guarantee awareness of his actions and prevent any potential deception. The case is not solely the fault of one individual, it is the culmination of a troubled upbringing, a flawed judicial system, and tragically resulted in the loss of 4 lives. That concludes the story of Nikko Jenkins. If you enjoyed this video, please remember to hit the thumbs up and share your thoughts on this case in the comments.